Hey you guys, we've looked at adding integers. Now we're going to look at subtracting integers. And if you haven't added integers yet, you haven't done that lesson, make sure you do that one first and then come back to subtracting integers, and then we'll go through that together. So we're going to look again at the screen, and what we're going to do is, if you can see here, we're going to subtract integers. Hold on, don't want to completely zoom you out. Okay. And what we're going to do is I'm just going to do the same thing that we did with the first video, where I'm going to show you, I'm going to subtract these integers and we'll see what happens. 5 minus 5, I end up with 0. Okay, simple enough. This is where things get tricky. Negative 5 minus negative 5, I end up with 0. Okay, we're going to have to flesh that out. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, and then for our third one, 5 minus negative 5, I actually get 10. And I want you to kind of see if you can figure out the pattern. Take a second to look at that. Why is that happening? And then I'm going to show you the 3 different ways that we talked about earlier. Okay. Think you got it figured out? Let's look at our 3 scenarios. So we started with 5 minus 5 equals 0. So again, I'm going to do this whole thing where I end up with, hold on, let me get a little zoomed in here, where I will start at 0, and then I will add, okay? So I'm going to get to 5, right, first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now we're going to subtract. And when we subtract, we go in the negative direction, right? Just like we did since we've been doing this for forever. So I'm going to go back this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I end up at 0. Okay, simple enough. That's the first scenario. All right. Scenario 2 was 5 minus, sorry, it was negative 5 minus negative 5. And I said that also equaled 0. Well, why in the world is that? Well, let's go back to our thing and let's figure this out. This is a really kind of gets a little tricky here, but I like to look at it this way. So we've talked about how when I'm going negative 5, I'm going to go in the negative direction, okay? And you can think of it as you're standing up. Here, I'm going to draw a little feet. Here's your feet. You're standing and your feet are facing in the positive direction, and you're going to walk backwards 5 steps. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I start here at negative 5, and now I'm going to subtract negative 5. Well, what does that mean? Well, when I'm subtracting, think of it as your feet are pointing. Remember, we were just doing that up here. I'm going to scooch up here. Think of when you're subtracting, your feet are going to point that direction. And then you're either going to walk forward or backwards. In this case, it was forward because it was a positive. So you went that way. Okay? We walked forward. If we're going to now deal with this, we're facing our feet in the negative direction. There's our feet facing the negative way. That's supposed to be feet. All right. And in negative, I'm going to walk backward, okay? Or in this case, this direction, because I'm going to walk backward. So when I'm subtracting a positive, I walk forward just like I did in the previous example. And when I'm adding or subtracting a negative, doesn't matter. If it's a negative, I'm going to walk backward. So in this case, I'm facing this way and walking that direction. Okay, so there I'm facing that way and walking this way. So I use F and W for that. And I go boop, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I end up right back there. Right back at 0. All right, this might be a little tricky for you. Take it or leave it. If it makes sense to you, then you can use it. All right, I'm going to give you the other scenario. This idea of walking in which direction we're facing. And I said, was it 5 minus negative 5? Okay, So I'm adding, so I'm going to face in the positive direction. I'm going to walk 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I'm here, okay? So let's not get stuck at where I'm at. I'm going to subtract next. So if I'm subtracting, my feet are going to face in the negative direction. Now I'm going to look at what this other one, this is going to tell me how many steps I'm taking and if I'm taking forward steps or backward steps. So it's a negative, so I'm going backward. So I'm facing this direction. I'm right here. I'm facing this direction and I'm walking this way, backward. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I end up at 10. Okay? So this is the idea of which direction am I facing and which way am I walking. That's why you can add negatives, okay? This is a sort of a trippy way of looking at it, all right? But if it works for you, use it. Okay. If it's not working for you, maybe this will work for you. Let's go back to our Pokemon option. And we had negative counters. You remember that? So let me just show you this way. If I added a negative counter to this Pokemon, Galvantula, there's going to be something that's happening, right? So if I add this negative 50, he loses 100, or he loses 50 HP and he ends up at 50, okay? So I did this whole scenario where we took 100 and we added negative 50, right? And we end up with 50 because I put this negative damage counter on here. Okay, well, let's say I can play some sort of potion and it heals 50. What would happen? I've added the 50, now I'm going to subtract 50. You see what I did there? I'm subtracting 50. So if I have 50, right, that's what I started with, and I subtracted negative 50, okay, I took it off of there, and I ended up back at 100. So I have this sort of idea that I can remove negatives from something, okay? So that's this counter idea, okay? I had 50 on here, and I removed them. If, like, say I had 2 counters, hold on. Let me copy that. All right, let's say I have 2 counters on there, all right? He would have been dead, but let's not worry about that. If I remove one, so I've got 2 negatives, which let's ignore that for now. Let's just say we're at negative 100 because I've got 2 negative 50 counters on there. I'm at negative 100 and I subtract 50. I'm left with 50, or negative 50, sorry. I'm left with negative 50. So this idea of subtracting a negative puts me in the positive direction. Did you see how it did that? So subtracting a negative puts me in the positive direction. Okay, so rewatch that if you need to get a little bit more information about that. Last scenario. Battle scenario. We used our battle scenario for adding. We're going to use it for subtracting. We had team positive, team negative. Okay, here's the deal with this. How does this work? Well, it's actually very simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn all subtraction into addition. And there's this cool little trick that I can use to turn anything, any subtraction problem, into an addition problem. And it's called KCC, or keep, change, change. So I'm going to put keep, change. Let me just write it out so it's easier. Change. So I keep the first integer as it is. Okay? I change the sign. Here's my first change. And then I change the second sign. So let me show you how it works with this. So I keep the 5. I changed the subtraction to addition. My second sign, if you look, I circled it. It's actually a positive, okay? It's not a negative. It's actually a positive because otherwise I would have minus negative, right? But I just have minus 5, so it's subtracting another positive. So 5 plus, and so I go from plus to minus or negative. And I go like that. 5 plus negative 5. Now we're back to our battle royale situation that we had in addition, right? 5 plus negative 5, there's a battle royale. They're different. They're not on the same team. And one of them is either going to win or it's going to be a draw. In this case, it's a draw because of the same absolute value. Okay? Same signs add, different signs. We subtract the two. 5 minus 5 is 0. Okay, so it's weird that I'm subtracting and then going back to add, but it's a way for you to mentally view what you're doing, okay? So if you want to turn everything into addition, it always makes it a little bit simpler. So I'm going to write underneath this, I'm going to keep the same sign. So I've got negative 5. I'm going to subtract or change subtraction to addition. I'm going to change my negative to a positive, okay? And we don't have to put the plus next to it because... So now I have another battle royale situation, negative 5 plus 5, okay? And you can think of it however you want to think of it. If you want to do, that, okay, I'm going 5 in the positive direction on the number line, or if you want to think of it as using counters and adding a counter to it. Any of that, however you want to do it that makes sense to you. But negative 5 plus 5, okay, battle royale, they're additive inverses. So additive inverses always equal 0, okay, when you're adding them together. If you're subtracting them, that's a different story. All right, I'm going to remind you that subtraction is not commutative, okay? So you can't switch the order. I can't just go negative 5 minus 5 on this last scenario. I can't flip it around until I make it addition. Then I can flip it however I want to. So I'm going to try the keep, change, change again. So I keep 5. My subtraction turns to addition. My negative turns to a positive. And I get 5 plus 5. And 5 plus 5 is 10. So if we go back to our beginning, you can see there the 3 scenarios. And I just showed you how we got to them, okay, using 3 different options. All right, use the one that works for you. Good luck.